Anyway, what's good, beautiful people? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my trip to Japan. My first trip ever to Asia was when I moved to South Korea to live and teach. Japan was actually my very first country in Asia to visit after moving to Korea, and the reason why I decided to make Japan and China the first two countries that I would visit for vacation was because I knew people who lived there. So the person that I knew in Japan was my good friend Toshio. We both performed on this hip-hop dance group back in 2003 when he was an exchange student. So Toshio was really excited to know that I was coming to Japan. Luckily for me, I had two good friends who were willing to come and visit me while I was in Asia. So we all met up in Japan first, in Tokyo, and then I brought them back to Korea and kind of showed them around. So this was this summer of 2013, my first time. We went to Tokyo and Kyoto, and the second trip I went to, not Oman, that's in a totally different country, Osaka, Tokyo, and Kyoto. In terms of my experience, I had a lot of fun the first time, but honestly, both of my trips were so stressful. So the first trip, I was with friends who don't plan for trips, so that kind of sucked. They expected me to plan everything, which I do plan. I plan always for my trips. So it wasn't a big deal, but it's a difference when you're planning for other people and you're accommodating for grown folks. And this was my first time trying to plan anything on my own in a foreign country. I'd always gone through groups, or I'd gone through, like, you know, showing up at a resort for a retreat. Actually having to look up things to do and figure out the logistics of transportation, location, things like that. It was really, really stressful. And just, you know, quite frankly, I just didn't get a lot of help from the people that I traveled with. When we got there, it was basically all on me to, like, navigate and ask, you know, these Japanese people in English, because I didn't speak Japanese, ask them directions and interacting with them. So we did have fun, but it was very stressful. So my friend Toshio picked us up. He and his wife and his son and a couple of their friends took us to a Kill Bill restaurant. I forget the name of it, but I'll include it in the video. The food there was delicious. They ordered like tons of stuff. It seemed like it was like tapas, almost like a lot of small plates where everyone could share. And I know that's somewhat the Japanese tradition in general, but that was my first exposure to Japanese food and being in Japan at that time. So the food was so good. It was so delicious. I love Japanese food. Like, I can't say that enough. Their food is so good. Next, we went to a park. That was this big, huge park that had these beautiful gardens. But to be honest, I was a little, it was kind of like underwhelming. And Japan is known for this. I know this now. I didn't exactly understand it then, but Japan is known for its basic simplicity. So they don't overdo a lot of stuff. And so it was this huge space of greenery, and the park was beautiful, but based on the reviews that I had read, I was just expecting more. Anyway, we went to, I think, Yogyo Park, it's called. Wait a minute, Yogyo. I think I'm confusing my languages. Yogyo in Korean means over here, or excuse me. I think it was just Yogi Park. Yogi Park in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. The Yogi Park was in the Harajuku area, which is supposed to be like a really cool shopping area. We didn't get to shop, but we found Garrett's. Who knows about Garrett's? If you know about Garrett's, like the video. Like the video right now if you know about Garrett's popcorn. We got so excited to see a Garrett's popcorn in Tokyo, Japan, of all places, that we completely stopped looking for the park and got in line at Garrett's. And of course, in true form, there was a long line like around the block. Now, after we waited for like, I don't know how long, 20-30 minutes just to get our popcorn, then we went to the park. Now, we didn't even just go straight to the park. We were so excited to have Garrett's that we had to stop for a second and snack on some Garrett's, and then we went to the park. By the time we got to the park, it was closed. We got there maybe around 5:30, 5:45. Or by the time we got to walk around, because you know how it is, you stop and take pictures. So by the time we got to the first temple, it was closing. So we had to hurry. Anyway, we also went to Kyoto. We did a walking tour, and that was pretty cool. We got to see some of the really cool temples. One was this, it had all this elaborate like red painting on it, which I totally thought was orange. But that one was my favorite. So that was the trip for the Japan part of that my friends came to. So when I went on a solo trip, I was like, okay, I was only in Japan for a short while. I always hear great things about Japan. I want to go back. I want to try to see more. And so people always tell me, oh, you got to go to Osaka. I went to Osaka, and that was cool. I wasn't as impressed as a lot of people were, but I did go to the Osaka Castle, and I liked that a lot. That was a good day trip. I went to the Ramen Noodle Museum. That was quirky and crazy and weird. A true Japanese fashion. That was a lot of fun, and I ended up meeting this family that kind of adopted me during the make your own ramen noodle portion, where you get to design your container and you get to pick the ingredients. So you don't actually make the noodles. That was a separate section, and I hung on to that after I got back for maybe like a month. And I eventually tried it. I had it for lunch at work in Korea, and it was delicious. It was actually really good. I had never really had ramen noodles from Japan before, because here in the States, it's just so blasé. Like, that's what you eat when you're broke and in college, right? That's not what you eat for choice. But had I known, like they do their ramen noodles on point in Japan. I think that's where it comes from originally. So yeah, I wish I would have known. I would have had more of it there. I went on this really high, is it called a Ferris wheel? You know, the really super tall ones where you could see the landscape of the city. That was cool. Then I went to Nara. I went to their deer park. That was cool, but I don't know what I'm thinking. I am so not into wild animals. I just can't handle it. I always think that it's a cool idea until I get up close on a wild animal, and then I'm looking at them like, I don't know you, you don't know me. I don't know what you gonna do, you don't know what I'm gonna do. But you're a wild animal, and you have hooves and horns and teeth that could harm me, right? So I just always get nervous around animals because I feel like no way do I know what they're gonna do to me. And even in the park, they had all these signs. They had like different signs of like be careful around the deer because they could hurt you, and they had all these different pictures of like the deer stomping on little kids. Japan is so funny like that. They had the funniest cautionary signs like in a whole bunch of different public places, from the subway trains to the bathrooms. It was hilarious. Anyway, I went to Kyoto because it was my favorite city, and it was just the bomb.com. And I saw, what was the Golden Palace or the Golden Temple? I think I only spent 2 days in Kyoto because I felt like I had already been there before, and I was just doing a few things, which was a mistake because the area that I stayed in this time, it was perfect for the things that I needed. I just love Kyoto. And I stayed in a capsule hotel, which was super duper cool. Stay tuned for future videos on that. That's where I'll give details on the things that I did. The point about it being stressful was just getting from point A to point B. Like, I got lost so many times, and sometimes you just want to be, right? So I got lost first night in Kyoto trying to find the apartment that I was staying in. I got lost trying to find the station, the train station. I just got lost so many times. And even though in Korea our vacations are spaced out, it was just one too many vacations where I'm constantly planning everything from top to bottom. and getting lost and trying to figure it out. And I'm doing this all on my own. So that it was just a lot of frustration and a lot of stress. And a few tears were shed on several different occasions. And it was just a bit stressful. So yeah, it was rough for me. Thank goodness the places that I stayed in through Airbnb were like my like safe havens away from the city and away from trying to find stuff, because I would try to look for something, look up something to do and be like, this is dope, let's do this, and then it would be closed, or it would take me forever to try to find the right direction to get there, just different things like that that really frustrated the heck out of me. And I was so worn out with that situation that by the time it came for me to meet up with my friend Toshio, because we had planned to meet, but it just didn't happen. I just wanted to sleep in, because we were supposed to meet on my last day in Tokyo, and he wanted to meet around for lunchtime. And so had I done that, because of the area that I was staying in, I would have had to get up at like 8 or 9 just to make sure that I got there in time, because I think where I was living was like a 2 hour train away from central Tokyo, which was, it was too much. It was too much for me. And 2 hours, including like the transfers and things like that. And it was just too much. And I chickened out. And when he told me about it, he was like, oh yeah, my son. He was asking about me. He was like, oh, where's Kenya's son? Like, why did she not come? And so I just felt so bad. I really did want to see him and his family. But sometimes, you just got to get that self-care, and sometimes it comes at really inconvenient times. But it felt great. I felt terrible about that situation, but it felt great to just chill all day in my spot. And then later that evening, I had signed up to do this thing where I got to like eat with locals. I got to eat with this Japanese family, and they cooked for me. It was a little bit of a miscommunication in the emails. When I told them that I like vegetables, they thought that meant that I was vegetarian. So it was like an all vegetable meal, which is all good. It was delicious. It really was. And I had told them that I hadn't tried takoyaki. I believe that's how you pronounce it, which are octopus balls. Not like testicles, but it's chopped up octopus in like a batter, and it's deep fried. So, and which is a popular dish in Japan. And so the sister, who was also at the dinner, went out and tried to get shopped for the ingredients and came back, and we made them together. So that was super duper fun. So I had a great time in Japan. Sometimes I flip back like, oh, why did I go there a second time? Why didn't I go somewhere new I hadn't been before? But at the same time, I had so many good moments that I don't really like to think of regrets in that sense. But it was stressful. It was stressful. It was not one of those seamless trips where everything just went right. So let's talk about Tokyo real quick. In terms of like being Black in Japan, I really didn't experience any spotlight on my color. So many folks in Tokyo in particular, and even in like Kyoto and Osaka, I think a lot of those are popular places where so many foreigners go that they don't even really stare at you, particularly in Tokyo. It's just like they get so many foreigners, and it's an international city, it's an international hub, that it's really no big deal to them. It really felt almost like a New York kind of feeling, where it's just like so many people and nobody's paying attention to anybody because it's just too much to focus on. Personally, I felt like Tokyo was super overrated. I would hear of people having these like crazy good times in Tokyo, like this reggae spot that I had heard about that I tried to go to, but again, too far, subway system too complicated, and I gave up. I can't lie. I also went to a robot show that had a lot of good reviews, and that junk, I felt like it was a tourist trap. I didn't think it was that great. It was a lot of like neon lights and crazy stuff happening. But unless you're drunk and run out of things to do down in Tokyo, then you go. But if you're going there to get like culture or some real entertainment, I would say skip that. But yeah, that was my trip to Japan. So if you all go, or if you all have any questions for me about going to Japan, feel free to leave your questions and comments in the comment section below, and I'll be more than happy to share with you any info that I would have or tips. So remember, please subscribe and like the video, share the video, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Deuces.